Hi, Gary here. September 26th, Friday night. Got a couple of little projects done today. Um, Transmission that I have in the car came with a clutch, and they've modified the pump so that the feed goes from, like it would normally go to the output to the cooler, and then return from the cooler back into the transmission. And then from there, that goes on to lubricate the rear half of the transmission. But I'm not running a cooler in this transmission. So with the clutch, what they've done is they've modified the pump to bypass all of that, and then they just put plugs where the cooler lines would normally go. But I've got a bit of an abortion here. I've got the old transmission that used to have a clutch, and because it has all the good stuff in it. And what I've done is I've taken a donor transmission and used the torque converter and the pump and the forward drum from that to put it back into this transmission, so that now I have it like a normal Turbo 400 with a torque converter hooked up to it. But because of that, it expects it to have a transmission cooler hooked up to it, and I don't want to have a transmission cooler hooked up to it. So what I've done is made a little loop, a little line that just goes from the output back into the input. And that way it bypasses the transmission cooler, but I'm still getting lubrication to the rear half of the transmission. So I'll just take you for a little walk around and show you that. There we go. See if I can get over here. Okay. Now, oh, there it is, down below there. So you'll see the little loop down there. So that's basically my imitation cooler. It's just going out, doing a little loop, and then coming right back in. You can't block those off unless you modify the pump, and I didn't feel like modifying the pump right now. So this is what I did to solve that problem. Plus, this will allow me, just gonna turn the camera around again. There we go. Plus, that will allow me to hook up a gauge. I've got a separate setup that hooks up to like the two AND fittings there on the transmission with flexible line that goes to a pump, or sorry, goes to a gauge, because I want to check to make sure what they call the charge pump, or the charge pressure. Charge pressure goes to the torque converter. And that's supposed to be from 60 pounds to about 120 pounds. If you get too much pressure on that charge pressure, what happens is it's really hard on the thrust bearing in the engine. So it can tear out the thrust bearing pretty fast. So you want to keep it within between 60 to 120 pounds, somewhere around 80 pounds would be perfect. The rest of the oil pressure in the rest of the transmission can be as high as 200 pounds or even more than 200 pounds. So if I find it more than 120, I'm going to have to pull the tranny apart again and do some modifications to drop that pressure. So that's one of the little projects I did. And I'll take you around to the next project. Oh, okay, here we go. So, I'm preparing this other rear end for the car. The rear end that's in the car right now, those gears are 430 gear, which is too high for this engine in the quarter mile. The RPM would be too high. I'm kind of restricted to around about 7,000 RPM with this current engine. So I'm dropping the gear. The other gear set that I have here is a 411 gear set, and that'll be perfect for the quarter mile. The 430 gear set will actually be perfect for the 8th mile in case we go to any 8th mile tracks. So that's what's really nice about the Ford 9-inch rear end is you can set the rear end all up, And then all you do is just pull the axles out a little way, undo 10 bolts, throw in a new third member, they call it, with a different gear set, tighten everything back up, and you're good to go. So it's actually pretty quick once the rear ends are set up. So what I've done here is made a little jig that attaches to my engine stand, and it holds the third member so that I can flip it around and work on it. I'll show you what happens with it. The pin just locks it in, and you can flip it around to any direction, whatever you want, completely upside down, like that. So that worked out really well. You can buy them. A cheap one is like 60 bucks or whatever, you know, and a decent one, it's like 200 bucks. And so I don't know, I just went looking around for a little bit of steel. It cost me less than 20 bucks for the steel. So a piece of pipe that fits in the engine stand, and then I just turned it down a little bit on my lathe, drilled a bunch of holes in it for the pin, and then some 1.5 inch angle, and then welded it all up, welded some threaded studs onto there, and works great now. So, and that also gives me the option to just like roll the thing around. It's not taking up more bench space. I'm going to do the same thing with my transmission mount. I've got a transmission mount that allows you to do basically the same thing. It's got a little tube on it, and you can roll it around to any direction you want, upside down, sideways, whatever you want. But the problem, I've been using it on my bench. I've been clamping it to my bench, which is not really all that secure. If a clamp goes wonky, and then the whole thing's going to end up on the floor. So that's not a good plan. And then also it takes up quite a lot of space on my bench. So I'll do the same thing for the transmission, and that way I can put it here, I can wheel it to wherever I want to work on it. So that works great. So a little bit of time, a little bit of effort, a little bit of grinding, some welding, and it all turned out awesome. So that's about it for the update. So now, because I've got that cooler line all done, engine back in the car, and I'm going to start putting it all back together again. So hopefully sometime next week, maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, I might be firing this thing up. I'm just waiting for a couple little things to come, things that'll help me finish off this rear end here. I want to put this one in the car. I wasn't going to bother with it. I was just going to use the existing rear end. But I guess when I put it together, the gasket was pretty hacked up. And I guess I thought, well, I'm not going to be using this rear end anyway, so, you know, what's the point in putting a new gasket on? So unfortunately, I put oil in it, and now it's in a pan underneath the rear end. And I think in the last day or so, it's probably dripped out a good quart or more. So whatever. I was just going to fill it back up and then fire it up. Don't worry about the drip. But since I've got the other rear end here, and I'm kind of held up with a few other little things, I thought, the heck with it. I'll just prep this rear end, get it going, get the proper rear end in the car, and then we're all good to go. I don't have to pull the whole rear axle out again another time. Might as well just do it now and be done with it. So that's about it for tonight. So just gotta keep plugging away. Hopefully get this thing all back together tomorrow sometime. And then just continue working on the rear end. So we'll catch you next time. Well, hopefully in the next week or so, I'll have a video up of this thing fired up and making a bunch of noise. So we'll catch you then. Take care.